The shopping list crumpled in my hand like forgotten promises. Alice, could you drive me to the store? I need supplies for the barbecue tonight. The words hung in the bright Kalispell kitchen, morning sunlight streaming through cluttered counters, where coffee mugs sat abandoned like our conversations. My daughter looked up from her phone, eyes cold as Montana winter. Are you serious right now? It's just a quick trip. I invited Jim and Carol. Maybe Dave. Dad. No. She stood, chair scraping against tile. I'm not your chauffeur. You're just a burden on our shoulders. You know that. The words hit like a physical blow. 65 years old. And my own daughter spoke to me like I was some unwanted obligation. Alice, it's my birthday. I just wanted to cook for friends. Your birthday. She laughed, sharp and bitter. You think that makes you special. You think that changes anything. Logan appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. What's all the noise about? Dad wants me to drive him around like some taxi service. Alice spat. Jesus, Ralph. Logan's voice carried that familiar contempt. Can't you figure this out yourself? We're not running a charity here. My fingers tightened around the list. Beer, steaks, corn, charcoal. Simple things for a simple celebration. I've never asked for much. Haven't asked for much? Alice's voice climbed higher. You live in our house. Eat our food. Use our utilities. Everything we do revolves around taking care of you. The kitchen fell silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. Our house. The house I bought for them, where I gave them everything, asking for nothing but a place to live. Fine. I grabbed my coat from the hook. I'll manage. Alice slammed her palm on the counter. Don't play the victim, Dad. We all know how this works. I walked out without another word, leaving the birthday card from my neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, unopened on the counter. The morning air bit at my cheeks as I pulled out my phone, fingers steady despite the tremor in my chest. Yellow cab. Yes, I need a ride to Miller's Market. The taxi arrived within minutes, the driver nodding politely as I settled into worn vinyl seats. Through the window, I watched our house shrink away. The white picket fence I'd painted last summer, now looking like prison bars. Special occasion? The driver asked, glancing at my list. Recent birthday barbecue. The words tasted hollow. As we pulled through downtown Kalispell, memories flooded back, unbidden. The day I'd signed the deed over to Alice and Logan, thinking I was securing their future. The college tuition I'd paid. The wedding I'd funded. The countless times I'd opened my wallet without hesitation. Every sacrifice had been willing, given with love. Miller's Market buzzed with Saturday morning shoppers. I selected each item carefully. Thick ribeye steaks, fresh corn still in husks, premium charcoal. The cashier, a young man with kind eyes, helped me bag everything. Having folks over. A few old friends. I paid cash. Bills I'd withdrawn earlier this week. The taxi ride home passed in contemplative silence. The driver helped me carry bags to the front door, refusing my offer of a larger tip with a wave and a smile. Small kindnesses from strangers felt precious now. Inside, the house was eerily quiet. Alice and Logan had disappeared, probably to their room to complain about the inconvenience of my existence. I unpacked methodically, arranging steaks in the refrigerator, corn in a bowl, charcoal by the back door. The dining room table awaited decoration. I pulled out my good plates, the ones Maria and I had received as wedding gifts 40 years ago. Each piece placed with ceremony, as if setting a proper table could somehow restore dignity to this day. Through the window, I could see the backyard grill, standing ready. The metal surface gleamed in the afternoon sun, waiting for purpose. As I smoothed the tablecloth with careful hands, something hardened in my chest, a resolve I hadn't felt in years. The doorbell would ring soon. Jim and Carol would arrive with their easy laughter and genuine warmth. For a few hours, I'd remember what it felt like to be valued, to be welcome in my own space. I stood at the window, watching afternoon shadows lengthen across the yard, my fist clenched at my side. The grill waited, my friends would come, and after that, things would change. The doorbell's echo pulled me from my thoughts. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and opened the door to find Jim and Carol standing there with warm smiles and a bottle of wine. "Happy birthday, you old goat." Jim clapped my shoulder while Carol kissed my cheek, her perfume a gentle reminder of better times. "Thought we'd never get here." Carol laughed. Traffic was murder coming through town. Dave arrived moments later, carrying a six-pack and wearing his signature flannel shirt. "Ready to burn some meat, Ralph?" We moved to the backyard where Montana's big sky stretched endlessly above us. The grill fired up with a satisfying whoosh, flames dancing blue and orange. I arranged the steaks while Jim cracked open beers, the familiar ritual feeling sacred somehow. "Remember when we used to do this every weekend?" Dave settled into a lawn chair, legs stretched out. "Back when we thought we'd live forever." "Speak for yourself," Carol teased. "I'm still planning on it." Their laughter filled the air like music. This was what I'd wanted. Simple friendship, easy conversation, the comfort of being understood. The steak sizzled, filling the yard with a rich, smoky scent. "Are Alice and Logan joining us?" Jim asked, glancing toward the house. "I'll ask." I wiped my hands and stepped inside, finding them both in the living room, absorbed in their phones. "Hey, you two, my friends are here. Want to come out?" Alice looked up, her expression sour. "No thanks. I'm not interested in an old folks gathering." Logan didn't even lift his eyes from his screen. "Yeah, we'll pass on the geriatric convention." Heat rose in my cheeks. "They're good people. They'd like to meet you." "I'm sure they would." Alice's voice dripped sarcasm. "But I have better things to do than pretend to care about your sad little birthday party." I returned to the backyard, forcing a smile. My friends had heard everything through the open door. I saw it in their carefully neutral expressions, the way they suddenly became very interested in their beer bottles. "Everything all right?" Carol asked gently. "Fine, they're just busy." I flipped the steaks, grease spattering against the grill grate. The memory hit me then, sharp and bitter. 3 years ago, Logan had come to me with his vague startup idea. I'd written him a check for $15,000, without hesitation. The business failed within 6 months. The money vanished like smoke. "These steaks look perfect," Dave said, clearly trying to lighten the mood. I served them on my good plates, the same ones I'd arranged with such care earlier. We ate in companionable silence, the food tasting like ash in my mouth despite their compliments. "Well," Jim said eventually, checking his watch, "we should probably head out soon. Carol's got her book club tomorrow." "Of course." I stood, beginning to clear plates. "Let me walk you to the gate." They gathered their things with the practiced efficiency of people accustomed to awkward exits. At the front door, Carol squeezed my hand. "Thank you for a lovely evening, Ralph. The steaks were wonderful. Happy birthday, friend." Jim's handshake lingered. "Take care of yourself." I walked them to the gate, watching their taillights disappear into the Montana dusk. Back inside, I found Alice and Logan waiting in the living room, arms crossed like judges, preparing to deliver a verdict. The front door stood firmly closed behind me. "Nice party," Alice said, her voice sharp with mockery. "Really showed us how important you are." Logan smiled, cold and calculating. "Yeah, Ralph, real impressive guest list." I stood there, feeling something dangerous stirring in my chest. "They're my friends. This is our house." Logan cut me off, pointing his finger like a weapon. "You live under our roof. You don't get to invite random people over whenever you feel like it." Alice nodded, eyes glittering. "We didn't agree to host your little senior citizen social club." I cooked. I cleaned up. They didn't disturb anything. "That's not the point." Logan's voice rose. "The point is you don't make decisions here. You're a guest in this house, and guests don't throw parties." The word guest hung in the air like smoke. Guest. In the house I'd purchased for them 2 years ago. "If you can't respect our rules," Alice said, crossing her arms tighter, "then maybe you need to find somewhere else to live." The silence stretched. I looked at my daughter and her husband and saw strangers. "Fine." Alice blinked, clearly expecting more argument. "What?" I said fine. I turned toward the staircase, each step measured. My room. The guest room apparently waited. I pulled my old suitcase from the closet. Clothes, toiletries, the photograph of Maria and me. I wrapped her photo in a soft shirt. The memory struck me. Alice's wedding, 6 years ago. The bill for the reception had been a staggering $28,000. I'd written the check, believing I was investing in happiness. Now she wanted me gone for having friends over for dinner. I zipped the suitcase closed. My car keys. The car was in both our names, another gift, another chain I'd forged myself. Downstairs, Alice and Logan sat on the couch, pretending to watch television. Neither looked up as I set my house key on the coffee table with a gentle click. The metal caught the TV's blue glow before settling into shadow. "Ralph," Alice started, but I was already walking toward the door. "Where are you going?" Logan's voice carried a note of something that might have been uncertainty. I opened the front door. Cool night air rushing in to fill the space between us. Out. The door closed behind me with the same deliberate care I'd used before. But this time, I was on the other side of it, suitcase in hand, standing on the porch of a house that was no longer my home. I took my first step away from the house, the wheels of my suitcase beginning their rhythmic rumble against the concrete. The night air tasted of freedom and uncertainty in equal measure. My footsteps echoed against the quiet pavement as the house was swallowed by darkness. As I walked, memories bubbled up. Alice at 18, sobbing in my kitchen over heartbreak, me promising her things would get better. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd promised to anchor her after Maria's death, supporting her through grief and therapy. And this was how it ended, with house keys on a coffee table and a suitcase rolling down an empty street. My legs ached, but the physical discomfort felt cleansing. Each step was a small act of rebellion against years of quiet submission. I passed the elementary school where Alice had attended kindergarten, the thought hitting me. When had that bright, loving child become the cold woman who'd ordered me from my own home? The neon sign of the Pine Lodge Motel buzzed softly in the distance, spelling out vacancy, like a welcome. The night clerk checked me into room 12 without judgment. It wasn't much, a single bed, a small table, but it was mine for the night. I unpacked methodically, placing the photograph of Maria on the nightstand. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, piecing together the years of quiet giving that now fueled a quiet fire within. Alice's college tuition, $43,000. Logan's car, $18,000. Apartment down payment, $12,000. Wedding costs, $28,000. Logan's failed startup, $15,000. I realized how much of myself I had poured into their lives, believing that love was measured in dollars and sacrifice. My breathing steadied as something crystallized in my chest. Not anger, but certainty. I was done being treated like a burden by people who'd built their lives on my generosity. The ceiling offered no answers, but confirmed what I already knew. Tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow I would stop being the man who gave everything and asked for nothing. Tomorrow I would start being the man who understood his own worth. Morning light filtered through the thin motel curtains. I stretched, surprised by how well I'd slept, better than I had in months. Something had shifted. The man reflected in the mirror had a new look in his eyes, purpose, determination. I dressed quickly and dialed the taxi company from the solid, old-fashioned room phone. Yes, Pine Lodge Motel. I need a ride to First National Bank on Main Street. Kalispell was waking up, and so was I. The taxi arrived promptly, and I settled into the back seat, watching the town come to life. A community I'd been part of for decades, yet somehow never truly belonged to. Business at the bank, the driver asked. Taking care of some accounts. The bank's marble lobby echoed with my footsteps. I approached the teller, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes. I need to block access to my credit cards for specific authorized users. Sir, that's quite unusual. Are you certain about this? I'm certain. My voice carried no hesitation. They no longer have my permission to use my accounts. I signed the forms, my pen strokes feeling like chains breaking. Just 2 months ago, I transferred $12,000 for Alice's kitchen renovation, believing I was investing in our family's future. Now, that memory fueled my resolve. The changes will take effect immediately, the teller confirmed. Perfect. I walked outside, feeling the satisfaction of making a decision purely for myself. I got into another pre-called taxi. As the bank receded, my phone began to vibrate. Once, twice, 3 times. I didn't need to look to know who was calling. The phone buzzed against my leg like an angry wasp. I swiped to answer. "What the hell did you do?" Alice's voice exploded through the speaker. "My card was just declined at Nordstrom. Do you have any idea how embarrassing that was?" "Hello to you too, Alice. Don't you dare take that tone with me. The cashier had to cut up my card right there in front of everyone." "How does it feel?" I asked, my voice steady as mountain stone. "How does what feel? Being humiliated by my own father? Being a burden? Being an embarrassment?" I let the words sink in. "Yesterday you told me I was just a burden on your shoulders. Today you're calling because you can't buy shoes with my money." Silence stretched. "This is different." Alice's voice returned, edged with panic. "You can't just cut us off. We have expenses, obligations." So did I. For 20 years. I countered. Family doesn't work by calling each other burdens. Family doesn't work by kicking people out of their homes for having friends over. We didn't kick you out. You chose to leave. After you told me to find somewhere else to live. I corrected. "You can't. I can." The words felt foreign in my mouth. "I can make my own decisions about my own money. Seems like a burden you'll have to carry now." I ended the call. The taxi driver, who had heard enough, simply asked, "Everything all right back there?" Getting better by the minute. The Pine Lodge Motel sign came into view, but as we approached, I noticed a figure standing near the entrance, tall, broad-shouldered, arms crossed in a posture I recognized all too well. The taxi slowed, and my phone remained mercifully quiet. Logan was waiting for me. Through the windshield, I watched Logan pacing under the flickering motel sign, like a caged animal. His tension was visible even before the taxi stopped. "That'll be 12.50, the driver said, but his eyes were fixed on Logan. I handed him $15. "Keep the change." As I stepped out, Logan spotted me and strode across the lot, face flushed with fury. "Ralph, what the hell do you think you're playing at?" I closed the car door calmly. "Logan, what brings you here?" "Don't act stupid with me," he snarled. "Alice's card got declined. Our airline confirmation just got canceled. You think you can just—" "I think I can make decisions about my own money." I finished for him, keeping my voice level. Revolutionary concept, I know. The irony of his sudden crisis, fueled by the money I was no longer providing, was thick. I remembered the $30,000 I'd written him when his business partner embezzled funds. I believed family meant covering each other's mistakes. The brass handle of Murphy's Cafe felt solid and welcoming. Jim was already there, rising from a corner table with a genuine smile. "Ralph, my friend, you look—" He paused, studying my face. "Different, stronger somehow." Funny how a good night's sleep and some hard decisions can change a man's perspective. The aroma of coffee and baking pastries wrapped around me. I was ready to share the full scope of my actions, and in doing so, solidify the final step away from the man I used to be. We moved to the counter, and I ordered a cappuccino, an indulgence I rarely allowed myself when Alice was always watching my spending. Settled at our table, Jim leaned forward. "So tell me what happened after we left last night." Carol was worried. She said she heard voices from inside when we were saying goodbye. The words tumbled out. The confrontation, Alice's cold dismissal of our guests, Logan's assertion of dominance over their house, the key left on the coffee table, the suitcase, and the strange peace in the motel bed. "They actually threw you out?" Jim's voice carried disbelief. "On your birthday? After calling me a burden?" "Yes." "Jesus, Ralph. I knew they seemed distant lately, but that's unconscionable." I continued with the morning's events, the blocked credit cards, Alice's furious phone call, Logan's attempted intimidation in the parking lot. And then this morning, I rewrote my will. Jim's coffee cup stopped halfway to his lips. Everything. A foundation for seniors who've been abandoned by their families, people who understand what it means to have their love weaponized against them. Jim set his cup down, conviction hardening his gaze. You know what, Ralph? Good for you. I've watched Alice and Logan treat you like a walking ATM for years. We all have. But none of us knew how to say anything without overstepping. He confirmed what I had noticed, but dismissed Alice's eye rolls when I talked about my garden. Logan checking his phone during my own birthday party. I keep wondering when it started, I said. When I stopped being their father and became their financial resource. People don't wake up one morning and decide to be cruel. They slide into it one small compromise at a time. But you stop the slide. That takes guts. My phone began to ring. Alice's name flashed on the screen, pulsing urgently. I swiped to answer and deliberately switched to speaker mode, setting the phone on the table between our cups. Dad, have you completely lost your mind? Alice's voice exploded from the speaker, drawing stares from nearby tables. Logan told me about your little tantrum at that sleazy motel. Good afternoon to you too, Alice. Don't you dare take that tone with me. I just got emails, cancellation notices for our Hawaii trip. $28,000 down the drain because you're having some kind of senior moment. Jim's eyes widened. Patrons had stopped pretending not to listen. The trip was canceled because the person paying for it decided he didn't want a vacation with people who call him a burden. This is insane. Logan thinks we should have you committed, declared mentally incompetent. A wave of validation surged through me, sharper than the steam rising from the mugs. Actually, Alice, I'm thinking more clearly than I have in years. You're destroying our family. How are we supposed to explain this to people? How are we supposed to pay for? You're supposed to pay for things the same way every other adult does, with your own money, from your own job, using your own resources. The silence from the speaker lasted exactly 3 seconds before her voice returned, higher and more desperate. You can't do this. We have obligations. Logan's business needs. Logan's business is not my problem. Your shopping habits are not my problem. Your inability to live within your means is not my problem. I'm done being your personal bank account. Dad, please. You're scaring me. This isn't like you. You're right. The old me would have apologized by now. Would have transferred money to fix whatever crisis you've manufactured. Would have begged forgiveness for having the audacity to expect basic respect from my own daughter. Jim reached across the table, squeezing my free hand in encouragement. But that man is gone, Alice. The man who raised you, who sacrificed everything for your happiness, who believed family meant something. You killed him the night you threw him out of his own house. What you're talking to now is what's left, and what's left has decided he's done. You're my father. You can't just abandon us. Watch me. I ended the call with a gentle tap, cutting off Alice's protests mid-sentence. The cafe fell into complete silence for a heartbeat before something unexpected happened. Someone started clapping. It began with the elderly woman at the corner table, her weathered hands coming together in slow, deliberate applause. Then the businessman near the window joined in, the young mother with a stroller, the college student with his laptop. Within seconds, the entire cafe was applauding, not mockingly, but with genuine support, as if they'd all witnessed something rare and necessary. Well done, Jim said quietly, his own hands joining the applause. Beautifully done. The applause faded, leaving behind a warm buzz of conversation. I picked up my cappuccino, surprised to find my hands completely steady. I took a sip of the cooling coffee and smiled. I rose from the table, shaking Jim's hand. Thank you for listening, for everything. Anytime, friend and Ralph, I'm proud of you. The next month unfolded like pages turning in a book I'd never dared to read. Within a week, I contacted Sarah Mitchell, Kalispell's most respected realtor. I want something that's completely mine, I told her. Something with space to breathe. The house she showed me on Hillside Drive was perfect. A modest ranch with wide windows overlooking the Swan Mountains, a kitchen built for one, and a front porch that caught both sunrise and sunset. It is good bones, Sarah said as I signed the purchase agreement, like its new owner. Moving day came with a crisp Montana morning. My possessions from the motel room fit into a single car load, clothes, Maria's photograph, and the manila envelope containing my new will. Everything else, I realized, had been unnecessary weight. I drove to Flathead Lake, hiked the trails, and discovered that solitude felt like freedom rather than loneliness. My phone buzzed occasionally with messages from Alice and Logan, apologies that felt calculated, pleas about mortgage payments, accusations of cruelty. I read them once and deleted them immediately, feeling nothing but relief that their emergencies were no longer mine to solve. Logan's voicemail was particularly pathetic. "Ralph, come on. We all said things we didn't mean. Alice misses you. I miss you. Can't we work this out like family?" The word family had lost its power to guilt me. Instead, I spent my days exploring my new freedom, buying exactly what I wanted at the grocery store, selecting tools for projects that pleased only me, and reading novels I'd always meant to. I finally had the mental space to enjoy stories that weren't dominated by other people's crises. 3 weeks into June, I stood on my new front porch, watching the sun set behind the mountains, a travel brochure fluttering in my hand. Scotland, Ireland, places I dreamed of visiting but never prioritized. The brochure pages turned like new chapters, each destination representing choices I could make purely for joy rather than obligation. The evening breeze carried the scent of wildflowers and possibility. Behind me, my house waited with lights in the windows and dinner on the stove, a life sized exactly to fit one man who'd finally learned the difference between being alone and being lonely. Tomorrow, I might call a travel agent. Next week, I might take that photography class. The future stretched ahead, unencumbered by guilt or the exhausting mathematics of keeping ungrateful people happy. For the first time in decades, my time belonged entirely to me. As darkness settled over the mountains, I folded the travel brochure and tucked it into my shirt pocket. The night was quiet, except for the gentle sigh of wind through the trees and the distant call of an owl claiming its territory. I had claimed mine too.